What's up, fam? Welcome to Joint Minds. I'm John.
I'm Jeremy.
And I hope you all are having a wonderful day. And in today's video, we'll be discussing America and the narrative that it's the greatest country in the world. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to be notified whenever we post another video, hit that little notification bell. And for all y'all haters that really want to talk shit in the comment section below, make sure you actually fucking do it. Alright, dude. So, America used to be considered the best country in the world, through the industrial era, in the 1900s. But now we have a lot of competitors, like China, Russia, Europe, and several other countries.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about America's status as the best country in the world, or the previous claim that America is the best country in the world?
The claim that America is the best country in the world.
Yeah, that's a stance a lot of Americans take, and it could just be America's ignorance too.
I hate that.
It could just be American ignorance.
Yeah, as an American, dude, the thing is though is you gotta kind of first determine what actually makes the best country in the world. You know what I mean? Because it's really, I feel like that's such a very subjective view. So I feel like there's a lot of factors that could actually go into contributing to what the best country in the world is,
What are you thinking? Give me an example for one.
It's obviously you could first start with how educated the citizens are. You know what I mean? So the education system. Well,
what are we talking about with education system? Are we are we talking our upper level education, our colleges are supposed to be considered some of the best in the world?
I mean, yeah, there's some of the best in the world, but there's many other countries with great colleges too. The UK has Oxford, which is probably definitely one of the top 5, and then I'm sure there's a couple in Switzerland or other European countries.
When you talk about accumulation of having top colleges, US has more top colleges than I'm pretty sure any other country in the world.
Okay,
when you take a top 50 or something like that, we have
but just having top colleges doesn't necessarily mean the education is the best, because I mean the US still scores pretty low in terms of education scores in high school and middle school, and even in universities, the type of careers they go into, they usually don't score higher,
So you're talking about our lower education when we're talking about education, our K through 12.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that's where the majority of education comes from. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to put a value of a country based off of their privatized education. I mean, because wouldn't the value of the country have to be what the citizens have access to?
Okay, so we're basically going to be comparing this from a K through 12 basis, right?
I don't think the thing is I don't think it necessarily has to be on a K through 12 basis, because a lot of other really developed countries, most European countries, offer public education for universities, so tertiary education, so it's it kind of has to be all education as a whole, not just privatized,
Okay, well then, public education. Well then, how do you feel about comparing education systems of countries that follow other countries' education systems? So I know some Middle Eastern countries take the UK's education system and implement it into their education system. So how do you feel about comparing those countries' education systems when they steal it from another country?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as it shows positive results. I mean, data is data, if the country's education as a whole improves from them stealing someone else's education system, then I don't think that's necessarily a problem.
Well, no, what I'm saying is they'll literally they'll take their exams and whatever process that the UK goes through, whatever exams that they take at that certain parts of the year, they'll take the exam in their own country and then send it all back to the UK to have it graded and all this other type of stuff. They won't have it done in their own country. It's not like it's the country just taking the idea of what they do. They literally are.
So they're outsourcing their education.
Yeah, they're outsourcing their education. So how do you what I'm asking is, how do you say that this country has a good education system if they're outsourcing their education?
Um,
Or would you just say that
I mean, that would.
outsourced
I feel like that
country-
kind of credit would just go to the UK's education system, not necessarily like whatever Middle Eastern country would be doing that. Then I don't know what country you're talking about specifically, but if a country was doing that, I think the credit should go towards the country that they would be copying. Then, if they were just completely outsourcing it and having it graded by them and tested by them, right?
Yeah, but then how because we're using education as a
I think,
part
but I
of-
think what like the thing is like we're basing education. Are we trying to base education ranking as like their value, like how high they test and like the scores, basically?
I think we should think about what the education system actually provides to the students. In a sense, not necessarily like their average testing scores. I feel like what opportunities are given, because you could have a
Okay.
great education system that teaches you like the highest of academics, but if it doesn't provide you with the right opportunities to actually apply that into the real world, or like find a transitioning point into the real world, then I feel like that education system is pointless, because it's not practical at the end of the day.
So, would I think if we were to try to like look at something like that, then wouldn't we have to look at like, would it necessarily be like the amount of entrepreneurs created in a country like that has public tertiary education? Because obviously, I hate to say it, obviously a country with free public tertiary education, like universities, is obviously, I hate to say it, blatantly ahead of a country that doesn't have like free tertiary education.
Would it? How so though? I feel like because your education is more
Because-
privatized, you have to provide a better quality instead of having it subsidized by the government.
Okay, but if that was true, then why does the United States still test like some of the lowest in like math and science and English too? Like
Okay.
they're like 38th or like 24th in science and like 38th in math.
Yeah, but that doesn't have. But that you're trying to attribute college to the education system of the K through 12, which are completely different entities here, because you have to pay for it, and you basically pay for the certain level of education you get for. That's why
That's
people pay
based
to go
off of the
to
PISA test
better
results.
schools.
That's based off of the PISA test results.
What's the what do you mean PISA test results? Like,
PISA,
what is
it's like actually is a. I'll just read it from Google right here. The Programming for International Student Assessment is a worldwide study by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in member and non-member nations, intended to evaluate educational systems by measuring 15-year-old pupils' scholastic performances on mathematics, science, and reading. So it's actually for K through 12. So even in the public education that the United States is being compared to with the other ones, at the lower level, they are still far behind.
Okay, but then how does having free, like, higher level education attribute to K through 12?
How does having...
Isn't that what you're saying by having a free tertiary education? That you're saying like your upper level education is free, correct? Like your college or university.
Yeah, because they go more into like direct like trading, like skill jobs, you know what I mean? Like teaching those. Like that level of education is always pretty much like higher regarded than public education, like K through 12. Like colleges and universities, like when you go there for a degree,
But is
they
that
teach-
necessarily true that all countries that have free upper level education focus their lower level education on the real world? Because like the way I view it, and somehow I've seen like heard some of my friends from Syria, and then some from my friends that went to school in Greece told me that that's their school. What they would do is, instead of giving you like random electives in high school, like how they do in America, where you have like woodworking, art, and stuff like that, they would actually be like, oh, do you like want to go into business, or do you want to go into engineering or doctor or something? Like if you have an idea in high school, and they'll base your electives based off of that
Yeah.
industry, so you have an understanding of its practical applications. Whereas here, like, they give us like wood shop and art, and not to knock those subjects, but there's not too many people that are trying to go into that industry unless it's a passion of theirs.
Okay, so how does that knock down any of the countries that are offering the public tertiary education?
I'm not saying that it necessarily does. I'm just saying that
I think your point just like boasts my point that like their education is better because they're offering them more specialized skills at like a younger age towards like actual career goals.
But
And
that's what I was asking at the beginning, though. That's what I was like trying to play. Like, does every country that offers free upper level education offer a system like that, or no?
I think most of them do, considering that they still boast some of the highest numbers. Most of those countries boast the highest numbers of happiest citizens like on the planet, like that usually exceed the United States, considering that the United States consists of one of the lowest like number of happiest citizens per capita.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's their that their happiness could be attributed to many other things.
I think
it could
happiness
be having like free healthcare, or like the state of their country.
Well, I mean, and even still, and like most of those countries do also like offer like those like things too. Like Sweden, Norway, Belgium, Germany, like the UK, like all those like places like offer free healthcare and also like public education for universities. So it's like,
okay, I mean they do that, but also you have to look at the opportunity that those countries give you for success. In comparison to the U.S.
Well, like, what do you mean, like, by opportunity? Like,
because
what?
It's
like what is opportunity?
The thing is, like, the American dream. People want to come over to America because this is the country that you can actually make it and make it big. Whereas, like, back in a lot of other countries in Europe, like, you could have the same skill set, but just due to the exposure and the environment, you just might not make as much money.
Okay.
Well, you could be providing the same.
You may not make as much money. You may not make as much money in that country, but you're accumulating less debt, and you are getting your education for free. And then with those skills, and that you like, the thing is in those countries still, a doctor still makes more than a plumber. Like, it's just not $250,000 a year versus $50,000 a year. It's $110,000 a year versus $65,000 a year. That's the difference. And if we know in America, that's still a big difference in standard of living, because you can live off of $65,000 a year as a single male pretty comfortably in a one-bedroom apartment, save enough money, invest, you can buy a house pretty quickly. Imagine $110,000 a year as a doctor in that country, but you don't have any debt that you've accumulated. That's $110,000 after tax. That would be like in Sweden, where their tax rate for the top 1%, or not the top 1%, but people who make, I think it's like 1.5 just times the average income, they're taxed 57%. So they would make, an average doctor makes like 200,000 there, they would make about 110,000 or so. And that's still a pretty comfortable living.
Value though, then. I guess it comes down to whether you value being able to make your bank account super big, or if you value not having debt and living a comfortable life.
But it's like, you can still make your bank account really big just through like investing. Like, what's it called? I think, I can't remember if it's Sweden or Denmark. One of them has no capital gains tax. I think it's Sweden. That's why there's all those sweet banks. Or Swiss banks.
The reason why
it might be Switzerland. It might be Switzerland. Yeah, they don't have any capital gains tax, and they also have public education and healthcare.
The reason why they're big is because they don't have to disclose private information.
Yeah, because they don't, and because their banks are super privatized, and people want to go there because they have no capital gains tax. It fucking saves companies a ton of money, literally billions every year. And literally Sweden produces more entrepreneurs and hosts more billionaires than any other country in the world per capita. Like, Sweden has like such good like a welfare system that people aren't afraid to like take risk because they're taxed at like, if they make 1.5 times like the income of like the average person, they're taxed so high. They're not afraid to take like risks because they have such a good welfare system. Most people who make a decent amount of money are paying those high taxes. So there's a lot of surplus in that money. So it makes for a strong welfare system, And because of that strong welfare system, they're able to supply people with the opportunity for entrepreneurship because they don't have to take the risk of, quitting their full-time job to try to, start a business with no time and no money that they have. And that's what leads to Sweden having more entrepreneurs than literally any country by capita. Like, I think it's by the next leading country is it's like double. Like, they're double the next leading country.
They might have the highest highest of entrepreneurs produced, but how big do those companies tend to get in comparison?
They host the most billionaires in the world.